All right, guys, welcome. Today we have the whole crew on. We are going to be diving into why smaller investors right now are doing, from our side of things, from our perspective, are doing about 10x what the bigger guys are doing. While a lot of people, a lot of the big multifamily guys out there are stuck on the sidelines. They can't make deals work. They've done little to no deals and are stagnant. We are seeing deals flying off the shelf. So we're going to be talking about that, diving in. But today we have Larry, we have Randy on the call, and representing about 500 million in assets under management in total. So we're looking forward to it. Let's dive straight in. So number one reason, we're going to give you three key reasons. All right, we're going to chime in on this and just drive these points home, because if you are looking to level up into multifamily, if you're new to the channel, we help smaller investors grow their portfolio, and then some medium-sized investors scale to the next level as well. But using capital partners to get the funds for the deal and make these deals work, if you are looking to do that, you need to write down these three things, okay? Number one is your buy box, okay? Number one thing that smaller investors have as an advantage over these bigger guys is simply the buy box. And it breaks down into two things. That's your geography and your unit count. All right. So first off, let's start off 10 to 100 units is typically what we are seeing as far as smaller investors, and what we're preaching as far as if you are coming to us asking us, how do I scale in multifamily? I say start with 10 to 100 units, right? Maybe you got a single family or two straight to, we've been interviewing people left and right on these podcasts every single week, and they're bringing in 30-unit deals, 50-unit deals when they've only had two or three to begin with. So 10 to 100 units. Why do we do that? Well, number one, too small for the big guys, too big for the small guys is typically what we say. But it's even more important in today's market that you understand that is, a lot of people refer to that as no man's land, right? So your big guys aren't looking at anything under 100 units, right? A lot of times, and so they're ruling themselves out just right there by itself. And so let's dive into that a little bit more. What are you saying, Randy? Why don't you start us off as far as
For sure.
exact buy box?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we had a core focus in that arena for quite some time, that call it, 75 to 100 units. It's, we were able to get scale with location, but also it's a smaller dynamic than, like you said, what larger institutional players are looking at. And then even to that 30 to 70 unit category, it is more typically that is your mom and pop seller, meaning, we call it kind of mom and pop kettle, where they're not, highly sophisticated. We've talked with many of those folks in the seller direct component. And a lot of times, they don't have a well put together T12. They're just, doing the books by hand themselves in Excel or stuff like that. We've encountered that quite a bit. And so that gives you an opportunity to connect with somebody. And a lot of times they've owned it for quite a period of time. There's, significant equity in the property. And there's not a lot of other people typically looking at it. And then even in some of the examples that, we talked about over the last couple of weeks with some of the members who bought deals, I think one or two of them were actually by a broker, were on market, but then didn't really get transacted, and then kind of came off market, so to speak. And then there was still an ability to execute. So that size component is really a differentiator that in today's moment, you're not wrong. It's like, look, if you can get a deal, I think the one that we looked at last week was like a 8 cap going in on real financials. That's a great number in today's moment. And you're not going to necessarily find that in a 150 or 200 unit deal in a major MSA. It's just not going to be there, because there's going to be plenty of other people, even in today's moment with higher interest rates and constrictions on capital, that they would jump on it. So absolutely I don't know if I'd say a hidden gem, because it's been known for a while. It's just, it's tougher for people to execute in that unless you're, nimble and ready to do it.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. And the second thing is geography. So people don't understand this, but a lot of people, the institutional guys are focused on relying on data in a certain market to be able to invest. The local guys, and that's a massive advantage because you have real time knowledge on that specific market. A lot of people come to us and say, what market should I be investing in and all this kind of stuff. And to be frank, you need to be investing local if you can. Now, I understand some people are located in the state, it's not landlord friendly, and you say, look, I don't want to invest in the state. That's totally fine. But the other thing, the workaround for that is getting a boots on the ground, getting in a community, a mastermind or something where you can find someone in that area to partner with you. And that's another reason we're seeing a lot of deals transact is because partnerships are key. Commercial real estate is a team sport. If you understand that concept, you're gonna do a lot better. But getting back to the local presence, it beats data, right? Like you gotta know the data, but at the end of the day, you're there. You know that one street's different from another street, and so that's a massive advantage that I would recommend to anybody that's jumping in for the first time. First off, 10 to 100 units. I probably wouldn't be under that. I prefer 20 plus. I wouldn't be over that because the inverse is true, right? You start looking at bigger deals, you're competing with the bigger guys, and it's just a higher chance of you being, just wasting your time, right? But then your geography, if you're local to the deal, you're going to be able to make deals work that the bigger guys couldn't make work, right? You're going to be able to be safer in deals because you have real time local knowledge. Okay. So, and then that leads you to, I mean, Larry can probably attest to this, but we have a group of real estate investors and these guys are partnering up. They're saying, hey, look, I'm looking for deals, but I'll also be boots on the ground for someone else's deal. Right. And that's a massive situation, right? We're seeing just the other week, I think it was last week, we had Kevin Harris on the show. If you haven't seen that, you need to go back and check out the podcast from last week. But he just shared with us about him doing a deal in North Carolina, and he's in Texas. And he had Tim Crowder come on that deal because Tim was in North Carolina. He was able to be boots on the ground there. So Tim got equity in the deal. And then Tim's able to actually keep eyes on the deal and actually participate as boots on the ground. So they both win. Kevin was able to get his first deal, went from 2 units to 56 units. Tim was able to get his second deal through just partnership. So, yeah, that's a big opportunity.
Well, the week before, we had the guy on who's a member of the community who he had a restaurant in that area in Michigan. You know what I mean? And the guy knew him from that and also knew that he was, previously interested in real estate. And it ultimately ended up being where he got a smoking deal on a property that I think it was 30 some units or whatever. I can't remember the exact, right down the street from the university. So it's like he knew immediately based on the geography plus being a known entity in the area that it was a great deal and was able to capitalize on it. So it's like, now again, being honest, like I would have a tougher time doing that in wherever that was in Michigan. You know what I mean? Like I don't have the
right
boots on the ground there at this time. It's not an area that I've looked at. I don't know anything about it. But when you looked at the mechanics of the deal a couple of weeks ago, it was a great deal.
Right.
So that's where I think it's important, for people to get a true understanding of where it is. And like you see that happening now where people are migrating to the Midwest. I had another friend of mine, he's been buying for years out in the Midwest, these, 20 to 40, 50 unit deals. And he's amassed, 1,200 units. But everyone that he was buying was like an 8.5 cap. And I remember telling him years ago, it's like, dude, you just need to keep doing this, man. Like keep buying, keep doing it. And, the Midwest, it didn't go up, it didn't go down. It's just, it's been a steady eddy, and that's been a good thing, and so you see more eyes going to that right now because that's been a more steady performer where some of the other markets has been more tough.
That's good. Yeah. And here's the last thing on that point, guys. When you're local, you have the ability to build better relationships with your banks, your lenders, your contractors, and look, a majority of the opportunity lies in the ability to have those relationships tight, right? This is a financing game. And so those relationships with the local banks, with all these different people that are going to play a key part, a major part of this deal, there's a lot of advantage to being able to have that. And it can mean the difference between making $1 million and making $2 million, right? It can mean the difference of, a deal working out and a deal not working out. So that's another big advantage when it comes to your buy box being local or picking the right geography there and having that unit count dialed in. Okay. And so, number two, big step here, value add opportunity. Or no, wait, I just gave you the third one. Number two.
You just did number two.
Yeah, that's right. I just did number two. Okay. All right. Number three. We are on to number three. I'm confused. Give me some grace.
Moving fast, baby.
Moving fast. All right. Number three, value add opportunity. Look, guys, we have a mastermind for multifamily real estate investors. And the biggest opportunity right now, I promise you, is finding value add apartment deals. And we're typically looking at C and B minus properties that we can then improve. And we're dependent. Whereas the bigger investors are looking at market rate opportunities, right? Your opportunities that have a 5-10 years before you see any kind of major returns. But small guys are able to make deals work. And there's much more inventory on the market for these types of deals, right? And so first off, we have volume of deals. We have that advantage versus the bigger guys are just looking at these market rate opportunities. There's just not a lot out there that actually pencils in the financing market we're in, right? And these value add opportunities, if you can find these are worth their weight in gold. And so you have our mastermind that all these guys are doing deals left and right. And we're constantly like, man, there's so many deals happening, but it's because they have a better structure and they're not dependent on market appreciation. They're dependent on forced appreciation. So over a 2-year span, 2-3 year span at the max, they're able to offer investors 20+% annualized returns, right? And still have, in a lot of cases, the majority ownership of the deal. Now, obviously, that's going to be dependent on how you want to do the deal, how the deal pencils out for you and what size deal and all different types of factors. But we're able to create volumes of deals because we have systems in place like our VA system where we hire, recruit, train, to manage a virtual assistant. And we basically place them in clients' portfolios and they send off-market deals. If you're looking at wanting to generate more deals, I would highly recommend getting a virtual assistant, somebody who, they could be out of the Philippines paying $4 or $5 an hour to just call apartment owners all day, right? Call these mom and pops like Randy talks about, and then have them send you the people willing to get an offer on their property, right? And so being able to have systems like that, that's just one idea for you, but being able to have systems like that generate a lot of leads, a lot of opportunities, and then we can find the best deals that are value add opportunity, and we're depending on forced appreciation, right? Basically, down the street, there's a property that's already at those market rents, same amenities, same everything, and we can guarantee you we can get that property up to that place within 15, 24 months, somewhere around there, right? So, Larry, you want to chime in on that?
Just to recap some of that, I mean, it's really all about knowing your numbers and being having the most opportunities in front of you, being in the front row seats for those deals. And all these points Jonathan just mentioned kind of covers that. If you open your buy box up down to 10 units, if I'm in my market that I know or the market that I'm operating in and I'm looking for only 200 unit deals, I've got a dozen. If I take that down to 10 units, now I've got 10 times, 20 times that. But you just want to be the go-to guy for that market, and you got to be direct to seller to get in those front row seats. You either got to be direct to seller, or you got to be direct to a broker who looks at you as one of the go-to guys in that market. And if you know that market and have that market knowledge, you're going to be able to run your numbers a lot more accurately than your competition.
Huge.
And you can't prevent somebody that doesn't know the market from overpaying, because that'll happen too. But
Yeah.
God bless them for that.
Yeah.
but
Well, then it falls out and it falls out of contract, and
that's
then
usually
you're
what happens. Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, in fact, we have a commercial acquisition director that says, I always want to be number two, right? If I'm number one, a lot of times that means I'm overpaying, right? As far as as getting your offer accepted, but a lot of times we see a lot of deals transact because number two person actually gets a call back once the number one person falls out of contract because they just couldn't make it work.
Yeah, that happens a
financially.
lot. I mean, this broker's job is to get the highest price for the property,
Right.
but they also got to get somebody that can close. But sometimes they give them a shot anyway. But we get those calls a lot.
A lot, yeah.
Sure, Randy does too. That
Yeah.
the price was a lot higher, but it did not close.
Yeah, that's well, today's environment, certainty matters. You know what I mean? That's for sure.
Yeah.
And that's what people are interested in is, certainty of close is part of an element of that. And the value add proposition, we were just working through that on a property that we have where it's like, all right, could we sell it now? Probably not the best moment right now, just given the current interest rate environment to be able to hit the numbers that we want to or need to. And then it's like, all right, well, what does it look like to refinance the property? And is there an ability to do more at the property? And so we just spent literally, like an hour yesterday with our team and an hour earlier in the week too on the same thing, but really identifying and just meticulously going through, that there are a number of 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms. We'd already renovated probably, I think, 82 out of 107 units. But now there's at least probably 65 units where you could do another level of finish, meaning new cabinet faces, premium lighting package, black or stainless appliance, and move the rents another 150 to 175 or $200, depending on what is the layout of a 2, 1.5, 2, 1, 2, 2, 1 bedroom, etc. And we diligently went in because we know the area. Our management team knows too. Pulled the exact comps. Saw that there's one direct competitor that's a lesser quality finish, same amenities. They're getting $1,495, and our target was $1,475. And so it just was able to really validate, yeah, we could go ahead, get the refinance done in over an 18-month period, go through and meticulously, up rents by a certain amount, and then a certain number of those people we would move out. We would then execute on renovation there at the property, increase that to the full market value rent for the new renovated unit or premium, platinum unit, and be able to capture that. And so then by doing that adds, roughly speaking, based on the increase in the overall income, it adds about another, almost $2 million in value. And the other thing too, we'd look at doing is implementing a washer dryer program. There's like 37 of the units that have built-in washer dryer connections. And so, we can buy the washer dryers for relatively inexpensive. We just got a group package from a liquidator for like $475 a package. And you can rent it for $50. Now, and again, a lot of times people go, $50, what's that? It's like, well, but when you do it against 37 units times 12 and then divided by a 6.5 cap, it's worth $350,000. So you spent, call it $18,000 on washer dryers, but created real value.
I'll never look at a washer and dryer the same.
Look,
right? We're
doing
that at another community.
$350,000.
Yeah, $350,000 on 18,000 spent. Like we did it at another community just recently. Again, same type thing. We're refinancing this project. There's an ability to implement that across 90 plus units. We just delivered it and put it in 12 units. Immediately sent out an email. 6 people snapped it up immediately. So over the course of, probably 12 to 18 months, we'll have full adoption at the community. And so if you have, 85 units at $50 a piece, that's $4,250 a month. Well, not big, but over the course of 12 months, it's $51,000. And on a 6.5 cap, that's worth $785,000.
Wow. Let's go.
Like
that's why people get into these
That's
opportunities. Real. Yeah, that's exactly what you're looking
and
at.
in today's environment on the selling side, the seller and their lender are looking at that. They're counting that. You know what I mean? It's different maybe than what it was, call it 3 years ago in 2021 when interest rates were 3%. They're genuinely looking at what kind of income have you collected. And so when you add that 50 grand of ancillary income, that boosts the proceeds that they're able to get on the loan. And then it also boosts the reality of the value of the property that they're willing to pay.
Good. That's good. That'll get you fired up. Let's go do some deals. Look, we're going to give you one more that I think is actually pretty critical, guys. Number four this time. I know which one we're on. Is speed, flexibility, and creativity. And I'll say this before, because Larry mentioned something very good about even going back to point number one, as far as being local. Guys, that also gives you the ability to know your market to the point where you can get more offers out quicker. You can actually underwrite more deals because you don't have to do as much research on the deal. You know what that market rents it are, you know what the cap rate in that area is, and you can be able to steward your time better in these. And at the end of the day, to be a successful investor, you've got to be able to clear your desk of the junk and not spend your time on things that are not going to pencil out, right? That's what kills a lot of investors that we see. But if you are local, you know the market, you've done your homework, and you can give more of a substantiated, evidence of and have it by memory, you can underwrite deals quicker and get offers out.
And you don't have to live in that market. I don't think you mean
No, you don't have to live in it. No,
you don't mean within 5 miles of your home.
Yeah.
You can be in a market. Randy,
it's good.
You operated heavily in one market that's ours. It's a flight from your house, right? But you still became a go-to guy in that market.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
So, yeah.
I think to Larry's point, it's like you have to, and I know we've advised this and done a great job within the community. Like you got to be a master of the market. You can't, and to Larry's point, you can be in an area that's a short flight away or a short drive, 3-5 hours, whatever, but you've picked it, because some people in that phase starting off, they're like, oh, I'm going to get in these 8 or 9 markets. It's like, I don't think that you're going to really be able to be a go-to guy in 8 or 9 markets and or have the real kind of intimate knowledge that you need. And so, yeah, for sure. I mean, that's 100% that you need to be able to do that.
But with
just a simple example of it is somebody, when we're doing the exercise I just shared, they were tracking the rents at like 1550 because some of the stuff they saw online. And it's like, in a reality, when I'd love it to be 1550, but when we dug in, it's like we thought, maybe the best day is 1525. We tested out one unit, kind of a platinum finish, and we found that really the number's like 1475. And that's what we had thought, but it's like, all right, well, let's test it. And so the person that was not like right there, they thought, oh yeah, because of what Larry's mentioned before, the data, it's 1550. And that's not going to be easily achieved. So it's important to have that intimate knowledge for sure.
Yeah. And I wanted to add, with the exception of a few states and a few cities, you probably should look where you live and where you drive by every day.
Right.
And because you're going to be, it's going to be easier to have more knowledge, and you're just going to have more knowledge. Yep. I can't tell you how many times I'm in a lot of networks and a lot of other investors. I can't count the number of times somebody's called me from out of town and been excited because they know I'm in this market or in a certain market, and they're super excited because they think they got a deal under contract. And I have to tell them the reality that they don't know the area, or they don't know the economic situation right in that one pocket, because every city's that way. You can drive 2 minutes and you're in a totally different environment. So it's just key to know that market. And one of those deals a broker called me about actually this week, and the poor guy, I didn't know the guy, and he did buy the deal. And they put a lot of money into it, and it's just not a sustainable area, over renovated. That's, everybody knows that story, right? If I just renovate it nicer, I can get more rents. And if I renovate it even nicer, I can get even more rents. But that's not true.
Yeah. Well, look,
even to that point, there was a deal. Oh, yeah. So I'm just saying, there was a deal that I talked with Larry on, I don't know, it might have been about a year ago. I said, hey man, look, we're looking at this deal. Here's the skinny. Larry's like, oh yeah, we looked at that deal before too. Here's the good, the bad, the ugly, because he drives by it every day. You know what I mean? And so I was like, yeah, it was not a make or break decision, but because Larry was there, he had more knowledge than I had on it, and that's why I called him. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So it's
yeah,
super
right.
key.
I could do all of the best research with all the tools I have at my disposal, and I'm not gonna get near as good of information or accurate as if I call you and it's somewhere you live and operate or where you've operated properties for a number of years, right? You're just
Yeah.
gonna know. You're gonna give me the answer in 5 seconds.
100%.
And so here's the last thing: speed, flexibility, and creativity. All right. A lot of smaller investors can act faster and make creative decisions, right? Without having, layers of approvals or rigid investment committees like these bigger guys, right? So, being able to structure deals creatively, like seller financing, partnerships, lease options, different things, right? That big firms a lot of times won't consider. All right, so that's another advantage, and then being able to move quicker on opportunities, right? And not to mention following up, right? A big advantage that you have is being able to hit the phones and follow up with these sellers, right? Stay on top of them, right? The people who get the deal, it's not about the follow up; it's about the frequency of the follow up, right? And then being able to write offers quicker, being able to negotiate terms quicker, being able to pivot strategies in days, not just weeks, right? So all of these things allow a smaller investor to be more agile, right? Where these bigger guys are just staying stuck because they have these systems and structures that have to be followed. So that's another big one. You guys have anything on that?
Well, we're talking about doing smaller deals. I feel like somebody's sitting out there saying, wait, I thought we are supposed to scale and do these big multifamily deals. Everybody wants to own hundreds of units or thousands of units. You hear that all the time. But you could own 100 units and buying 10 to 20 unit deals, still double your portfolio in a year by buying these smaller deals. And it's
Yeah.
the how do you scale your portfolio, or how do you start a portfolio? You buy a deal, whether that's a 10, 20, and it's going to compound.
Yeah.
It's going to always compound.
Yeah. And it depends on your goals too, guys. If your goal is to replace, to be able to hit 20K a month, or your goal is just to have another million in assets under management, you got to define what is your goal and what are you looking to achieve and by when. And then we can really have a better discussion about what that looks like as far as your situation. Because everybody's time is worth something, and it's different based off, what you need in terms of income, right? If you were to say, okay, I want to go all in on multifamily, I've got this job, but I want to make sure I have security. You got to say, like, what's your time worth? It may not be worth you doing a 5-10 unit deal, right? You may need to go ahead and jump into that 30-40 unit deal, which is totally fine. And then you need to build out metrics around that. Okay, what avenues do I need to go down to ensure that can happen, right? So
Get a roadmap.
Yeah, you got to have a roadmap. So look, guys, go ahead, Randy.
Well, and I would just say that too, I mean, the comment that we were talking on before and Larry had mentioned just now is that, you also have to be wise and flexible within the context of what's taking place within the market. And so you've got a goal and you've got a place to get there. And maybe you did desire to buy 50, 75 units or whatever, but it's more tough right now to achieve that. You're better off to be able to buy 2 of those 30 unit deals in the course of the year, because now you've accomplished something towards your goal, but you've done it within the context of the necessary flexibility of the market conditions, because just the interest rates, competition, that's where, there's using wisdom in that. And that's what's also going to help you long term, is not just doing things by rote, but really identifying what's the landscape, what's the appropriate moment that's going to be best for us to continue moving towards our goal. And I think Earl Nightingale said success is the continuous progress towards a worthwhile ideal goal. And that is a great definition of success, because oftentimes we want to just call success like, hey, I reached this and $1 million or whatever. But it's like, if you're consistently moving to a worthwhile ideal or goal, you're moving in the direction of your dreams. And praise God, that's where God's leading you in the growth.
That's good. That's good. Well, look, guys, if you are here with us this long, you deserve an award, and you are serious about scaling your multifamily. I'd love to hear from you. If you have things that you want us to answer on this show, drop it in the comments. I'd love to hear any of your questions. What are you looking to achieve in the next 6, 12, 24 months? What's your goal? What's your buy box? What does that look like? And what questions do you have? What constraints do you have? We'd love to answer on this call. And so drop it in there, and we'd love to check it out. If you're looking for a community of like-minded investors, people that are scaling up together, I can't tell you how important it is that you find other people that are doing what you're doing and are further along than you are. Larry and I, Randy and I spend hundreds of thousands a year to just get in the rooms with people who's already solved the next 10 problems we have, who have gone where we want to go. And that is, we could all say that has been pivotal in our journey of actually growing our portfolio, is being in that room. And so I would just encourage you, find community of people that are like-minded. If you want to have a conversation with us and see how we can help you, would love to see if that might be a good fit for you. So we'll drop a link in the description. Check that out, and we can have a chat. But God bless you. Until next week, have a great week.